as usual, that was a very disappointing ending. But other than that, it was a decent solo. Hello, my name is Zach, and welcome to Zack Wing Music. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to the 14th episode of Jazz for the Rest of Us, where we are taking jazz concepts and applying them to non-jazz music, and things have gotten pretty insane. In our last video, we talked about a symmetrical scale called the whole tone scale. In this video, we'll be talking about the diminished scale. Whereas the whole tone scale was just whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step to infinity, this scale has two steps. You have half step and then whole step, and then half step and then whole step, and then half step and then whole step to infinity. So let's give an example. Let's start with G. You're going to start with G, go up a half step to G sharp, go up a whole step to A sharp, go up a half step to B, go up a whole step to C sharp, go up a half step to D, go up a whole step to E, go up a half step to F, and then you would go up a whole step to get back to G, and that's where you started. So this is actually an 8-note scale. Most of the scales that we've dealt with have been 7-note scales. The whole tone scale was a 6-note scale. This one is an 8-note scale. It gives you this really weird, kind of creepy sounding scale. It sounds like this. So what I just showed you was what you call the half-whole diminished scale, where you start on a note and go half whole, half whole, half whole. But you can also have the whole half diminished scale. That's not what we're going to be using today, so I'm not really going to explain it. And it's really not that big a deal because they are essentially the same thing. The G half whole diminished scale has the same notes as the G sharp whole half diminished scale. If I started on G and went G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, that's half whole, I would get the same notes if I started on G sharp and went whole, half, whole. It would be G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp. So you should know that there's half whole and there's whole half, but really any whole half could also be identified as a half whole and vice versa. It's really not that big a deal. Also, fun fact, if you start on G and do half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole, until you get back to G, you get a certain set of notes. If you start on B flat and do half whole, half whole, half whole until you get to B flat, you get that exact same set of notes. And then you get the same set of notes if you start on C sharp or D flat, and you get the same set of notes if you start on E. All of those root notes were 3 half steps apart, so they are all essentially the exact same scale. G diminished, B flat diminished, C sharp diminished, E diminished, they all have the exact same notes. Anyway, let's go back to our G example and let's talk about how each of those notes would relate back to the G if we were building a chord based off of the G with the root on G. So obviously G is going to be 1. The next note, G sharp, would be a flat 9. We know that in G, the natural 9 is an A, so a G sharp or an A flat would be a flat 9. The next note is an A sharp. We just said that the 9 was A, so an A sharp is going to be a sharp 9. So we have 1, flat 9, sharp 9. After that, we go up a half step to B. That's going to be a third. If you're in G, the third, the major third is going to be B. After that, we go up a whole step to C sharp. That's going to be a sharp 11. The normal 11, the natural 11 would be C. This is C sharp, so it is a sharp 11. Then we go up a half step to D, and we get the 5, the perfect fifth, the normal 5. Then you go up a whole step to E, and you get the 13. Then you go up a half step to F, and you get the 7. So we had 1, flat 9, sharp 9, 3, sharp 11, 5, natural 5, 13, and 7. All that stuff, all crammed into one scale. Isn't that awesome? So what kind of chords can we play this scale on top of? Well, anything with a sharp 5 is pretty much out, because in this scale we have a sharp 11, which is the same thing as a flat 5, and a 5. So we have the flat 5 and the 5. Obviously, you can't play both of those on top of a sharp 5. That would sound really, really bad. And we have a 13 in this scale, which would sound pretty bad on top of a sharp 5. So anything with a sharp 5 is pretty much out. Also, anything with a 9 is pretty much out, because we have the sharp 9 and the flat 9 in this scale, but we don't have the natural 9. So if you have a 9 in the chord itself and you play a sharp 9 or a flat 9 on top of it, that will sound really bad. So anything with a sharp 5 is out, anything with a 9 is out. Interestingly, those are the notes that were in the last video with the whole tone scale. We had the 9 and the sharp 5. That's no extra charge. So where can we use this? Well, if you have a flat 9 chord, you can play this on top of it and it sounds pretty cool. So if you have a 1, a 3, a 7, and a flat 9, that would sound pretty good. That's the one that most people talk about. Most of the jazz guys, when they talk about using the diminished scale, I feel like they talk about the flat 9 chord. Logically, You should also be able to do it with a sharp 9. I will sometimes use it on just straight dominant chords, so just 1, 3, 5, 7, and then that would give me like a dominant sound with like a little bit of alteredness going on because they have the flat 9 and the sharp 9. And the same thing goes with the 13 chord. If you have a 13 chord, you can play this and you get all your extended notes plus a sharp 9 and a flat 9, so it gives you some weird kind of alteredness going on in the harmony with the sharp 11 and the 13, which are your kind of extended dominant notes. So what did I just say? I just said a flat 9 chord, a sharp 9 chord, maybe a flat 5 chord, maybe just basic dominant chords, maybe a 13 chord. And I'm sure there's other places where you can use a diminished scale that would sound good that aren't coming to mind right now. So what do you got to do? You just got to try it. You got to look at the chord and see the notes that are in it and say, hey, there's a 13. I think this would sound good with the diminished chord, and give it a try. And if it sounds like crap, then don't do it again. If it sounds good, then do it. So let's give you guys an example. So let's say we're playing some like blues. We're not going to do a 12-bar blues. I just want 2 chords here. So let's say that our first chord is an A and our second chord is a D. The first chord is an A13, so it's a 1, a 3, a 7, and a 13. And the second chord is just a basic dominant chord, so 1, 3, 5, 7. I have recorded that exact chord progression on my little looper down here, so that's going to sound like this. We got the A, 13, 2 measures of that, 3, 4, and then the D. Just a basic D dominant chord, 2 measures of that, and then back to the top. So, on top of the A, I'm going to play mainly like A pentatonic bluesy stuff, maybe some Mixolydian, something like that, maybe even some Lydian dominant or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to play because it's all improv. But I will sprinkle in some A diminished into the licks. And then when we get to the D, I might do D Lydian dominant. I might do just stay in the A pentatonic stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will try to sprinkle in some D diminished. And hopefully this goes well. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was interesting. I'm not really sure what the crap I just did, but it was kind of cool, so we're going to go with it. So like I said, that was just 2 examples of chords that work with a diminished scale. That was a 13 chord, an extended chord, and just a basic dominant chord without any extensions or alterations. But it also works with a flat 9 chord, maybe a sharp 9 chord, maybe a flat 5 chord. You can just try it in a bunch of different ways, done a bunch of different places, and see what you get. And that's pretty much all I have to say today in this lesson. So if you liked the video, I would really appreciate it if you click the like button. If you want to be up to date on all the latest videos, you can subscribe, you can turn on notifications, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. So now, just for fun, I'm going to solo on top of a different chord progression using this diminished scale. My chord progression is going to be B minor 7, and then B flat, flat 5, so it's an altered chord, and then A major. So this is essentially a 2, 5, 1 in the key of A, but the 5 is being tritone subbed out. If you don't remember what that means, then you go watch my video on tritone substitutions and it will change your life. Well, that's all for now, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.